Hi everyone. Today we are judging the audio quality of the Pioneer BDP-LX71 as a potential audiophile CD player. The chain is Pioneer BDP-LX71 Sony TA212 integrated amp, Tannoy Mercury MK2 speakers in a medium-sized living room. We'll play a reference track, then do a quick tour of the specs and the front panel before finishing with the rear connections and whether this makes sense as a serious CD transport deck combo for music. Let's play some tango music and hear the sound quality. You have just listened the audio quality. Although the LX71 is a Blu-ray player, it was built like a high-end disc machine with onboard HD audio decoding and full multi-channel analog outputs. Pioneer pitched it as a quality playback deck rather than a feature-first box. Under the hood, it uses Wolfson 192 kHz 24-bit WM 8740 digitals to analog converter chips across its channels, which is exactly the kind of part you'd expect to see in dedicated audiophile gear from the era. That's why it's interesting to test as a CD player today.
Core audio and build specs.
Highlights: isolated two-channel analog outputs specifically intended for CD playback, plus optical and coaxial digital audio outs if you want to feed an external deck. The chassis is substantial, about 420 by 124 by 360 millimeters and approximately 6 kilograms. so there's decent mechanical stability against vibration. The transport is quiet and the display gives clear track and time info for CD mode.
Front panel walkthrough.
Front and center, you've got the disc tray and a clean fluorescent display. Transport keys open, close, play, pause, stop, previous, next are logically spaced so you can operate in low light. You'll also find menus, return, and navigation button for this setup. The fascia styling is minimal. A high gloss panel with just a couple of silver buttons and a discrete power switch. Very much the quiet hi-fi look. For pure music use, the front gives you everything you need without screen-on interaction.
Rear panel, all the audio paths.
Round the back is where the LX71 earns its audiophile stripes. You get dedicated 2-channel analog RCA outs for straight stereo CD playback, 7.1 channel analog outputs for multi-channel discs or downmix options, digital, coaxial and optical outputs to use as a CD transport into an external digital to analog converters, HDMI for streaming or PCM to an audio video receiver if needed, SRN and Ethernet for control and firmware updates. This flexibility means you can compare the LX71's internal Wolfson digital to analog converter chip against any external digital to analog converter you already own. Just swap from analog RCA to digital out.
How we listened, chain behavior in room.
With the Sony TA212 late 70s integrated amplifier, we're feeding a classic honest solid state amp. The Tannoy Mercury Mark II are nominal 8 ohm speakers with sensitivity in the high 80s to approximately 90 decibels depending on variant. So they're an easy load for the TA212 and very revealing in a medium room. That makes them useful for hearing the sound quality.
What we heard.
On the analog stereo RCA outs, the LX71 presents a clean, neutral balance. You get solid center imaging, crisp transients on cymbals and acoustic strings, and bass that's tight rather than overripe, which suits the Tannoy's punchy character. Importantly, low-level detail, reverb tails, room cues comes through without grit. Switching to digital out into an external deck, shift the flavor depending on your deck, but the LX71's own stage is already refined enough that many listeners won't feel shortchanged.
Can it replace a standalone audiophile CD player?
Short answer, yes, credibly, if you use the right outputs. If you want plug and play stereo with a classic amp like the Sony TA212, use the 2-channel analog outs and enjoy the Wolfson voicing, musical, composed and detailed. If you want to chase a different house sound, run coaxial or optical to an external deck and let the LX71 act as a solid transport. The bonus is that you keep HDMI and multi-channel analog on tap for the occasional concert Blu-ray while still having a serious AD source for music nights.
Verdict.
As a music-first machine, the Pioneer BDP-LX71 is absolutely viable as an audiophile CD player. The dedicated 2-channel analog outputs, Wolfson digital to analog converter architecture, and solid transport make it more than just a Blu-ray box. In this setup with the Sony TA212 and Tannoy Mercury Mark II, it delivers a clean, engaging stereo presentation and gives you digital flexibility if you want to voice the system differently. Thank you very much for watching, and please tell me in comments your judgments about this short but realistic sound test in common environment. Bye bye until next time.